What is up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Tribe of Runners podcast. I'm your host, Liz Myers, and today I am here to talk to you about the unfortunate events that happened this past weekend. So, for many of you that do not know, I DNF'd my first race, and it has been a wild journey to say the least. So, for many of you that do not know, I was racing H9. It's called H9 the Dragon Spine, and was super excited for this race. I've been training my ass off, and I will get more into the details about training, but things did not go as planned, and I had to DNF. So, before we get into all of the nitty gritty about the race, what happened, why I DNF'd, I wanted to first kind of go over really like what I've been feeling and what I've been experiencing. So, it sucks. It's not fun, but I genuinely believe it's a part of the process. And the more I sit and think about things and realize I truly did make the right call, I am at peace with everything that has happened. I am still super mad and a bit annoyed, but at the end of the day, I would much rather not have a completely messed up ankle and be able to continue to train for my A goal, which is later this year, which is the Barkley Fall Classic. But that doesn't mean this doesn't sting. I was super excited to go out there and give this mountainous race a run for the money, run for my money, more or less, and go out there and see and experience all of the things of a mountainous race. But that ended very quickly. So I am fine. And I appreciate each and every one that has reached out to me. If I have not gotten back to you and responded, I am so sorry, but I really wanted to take yesterday, which was Sunday, to myself and just kind of chill, rest the injury, and try to figure out, all the feelings that I possibly could, and truly to go through all the feelings that I was. I was super disappointed, super angry, super annoyed, but at the end of the day, I knew I made the right call, and now I'm here to share it with the world because that's what I do. I share my journey. You are not alone if you have DNF'd or if you haven't, this is a podcast that you can listen to and hopefully gain some insight and some knowledge from. Because at the end of the day, and probably one of the biggest takeaways I am taking away from this DNF is that like some things you just can't help. And it's best to really sit back, learn as much as possible, and continue to strive forward because at the end of the day, things like this happen, and it's best just to learn, to regroup, to reframe, grow from it, and then to keep pushing forward and do the best you can after said setback. So, let's get into this story. If you haven't been following along, I've been training my tail off for a mountainous race. The A goal is the Barkley Fall Classic, but this race that I actually went out to participate in was called H9 the Dragon Spine. This was a 50-ish mile race with roughly 12,000 feet of vert. It is a very, very small race, and not too many people know about it. So go check it out. It is super, super wild. And I literally only got to see a blimp of what this race is, but I am excited and 100% want to go back next year and get some redemption, not because I thought it was hard and had to stop, but because I literally injured myself and couldn't go much further. So I am really pumped to go back out there next year and to tackle it. Honestly, because I really want to go out there and see what I can do in this race, because that's literally what I wanted to do for this year, but I couldn't when I injured myself. So it's a super low key race, like I mentioned, and not too many people know about it, but I was fortunate enough. I knew a few people that did. I reached out to them. I thought this would be perfect training for the Barkley Fall Classic, which is why I signed up for it. And this was my first race of the year, which I am sad to say really sucked when I had to call this race and drop from it because I haven't raced in so long, and the little bit of time that I was out there on the course was not enough. I'm ready to race, and sadly I am cornered and sidelined, so things have kind of come to a little bit of a standstill, but I'm super excited to come back. As always, you got to come back stronger, better than ever, and I'm ready for that. But honestly, I've been so excited for this race. I have trained my butt off. I've done so much work, And it's just such a bummer what happened and how it happened. And I will get more into that. But training has been probably the hardest I've ever had. And that's crazy because I've trained for a 200-mile race, and this training was just so different than from what I'm used to. I am used to flat, maybe a little bit of technical, weird terrain, Florida trail. It's not super, super crazy. But this training block was way different. I trained so much on the treadmill compared to normal. I went out and did relentless amount of hill repeats at Celery Fields, which is what I called, quote unquote, the Florida Mountain. But as you know, I've done so much training. I've wrote about the training. I've put out YouTube videos on my training, and I was so pumped to actually record this race and try to share what H9 really is with as many people as possible on YouTube. But that was really cut short, and I don't even have good footage to put together because as soon as I rolled my ankle and I knew kind of that this race was kind of going to be a bust, I stopped recording, and I have maybe 5 minutes worth of any type of footage. So not going to post any type of YouTube on this race, but figured I would share my journey via the podcast and hopefully reach and encourage and inspire as many people as I can through this process. So I'm going to give a little insight on like going up to the race, the actual race, coming home from the race, and then, how the past few hours, days, whatever you want to say, have been. So if you don't know about my training, check out the YouTube, check out my blogs on Substack, and, read and listen to as much as you can about it. It's been crazy. I put in so much vert. Yes, on the treadmill, it still counts. And I was just ready to go out there and see how this race was. Within the taper, I honestly did pull back a little bit. I've been super stressed out with work and family and life, and it's just been crazy. So my last week of taper was cut a little short. I did a lot more walking with my dogs just to kind of like let the body chill. And honestly, I was feeling so ready to go out there and tackle this race. Like I said, rested my body, gave it a little extra time, and Friday, my mom picked me up here at the house, and she drove all the way up to Georgia for me. So I was very fortunate to have my mom take me up there. I knew I would need someone to help me drive back, not in the way I thought I would need her to drive me back, but wanted just someone to be able to come with me, even if that meant splitting up the drive and doing, half the work. That way it was easy to get up there, easy to come home. Sadly, things kind of changed, but we had such a good time on the way up. We stopped at a few different places to eat. We enjoyed the ride up there and just had a good time together. But when we got close to the actual race, I kept telling my mom, Blue Ridge sounds so familiar. I don't know why, but I feel like I've been in this area. Mind you, the race is in Blairsville, and I believe the Blue Ridge and Blairsville are pretty close together. And when we were getting close, I'm like, this area kind of looks familiar. This town sounds familiar. And when we got probably 20 minutes, not even, maybe 10 minutes from Vogel State Park, which is where the race was going to be held, I was like, you know what? I've been to this restaurant. We passed Jim's Smokin' Barbecue, and I remembered a couple years ago, my family and my sister's family went up to Georgia, and we stayed at an Airbnb, and it was in this general area. So it was super cool to be back. As soon as I saw that restaurant, I was like, we are definitely going to eat that for my pre-race meal. I was super excited to have some barbecue and some mac and cheese and all that good stuff. So we get to the race again. We get to the start of the race. It was, the Friday before. I want to say it was just about over 9 hours to get there. Plus we did make a lot of stops. So it was probably like a 10-ish hour drive. And we got there with plenty of time. We went to the start of the race, the pre-race, checked in and did all that stuff. And it was super cool. Like I said, this race is low key. When I got there, I was expecting to pick up a bib. There's no bibs. They give you a shirt and a couple pins and some stickers. But the bib is writing your number on the side of your arm. So for me, I thought that was super funny. But we didn't do that till the actual morning of the race. But the check-in was super easy. No stress. It was super laid back. I did see some good friends from Florida. So there's Joseph Fuller out there. There's Mike Alberts and Katie. There's a few other guys out there, and it was nice to see them the morning of. But those are the main ones that I saw in the morning. And then we went to go grab pre-race meal at the Smokin' Jim's Barbecue, and then we went back to our Airbnb. So that was honestly Friday. Drove all day. Went to the pre-race check-in, got to see some good friends up at the start, which I knew they were all going there, and it was just really, really cool to chill, hang out, and honestly spend quite a lot of time with my mom. As everyone knows, I'm super close with my mom, and she is someone that I'm so thankful that takes me and helps me in all of my races. So huge shout out to my mom, especially for this race, because this is the first DNF that I've ever had, and she handled it very well. Let me feel all the things I wanted to feel, didn't, ask me too many questions and wasn't up my butt. So it's super nice. But went back to the Airbnb. I honestly got such a good night of sleep. It may have been a little shorter than, what we quote unquote want, but I had a really good night of sleep. Woke up the next morning feeling so ready, so confident, so ready to go, and got myself ready. We had tons of time. We went to the start line. We got there super early, honestly, and had the ability to go take care of business as everyone wants to do right before a race. And before I knew it, I was like walking to the start line, putting all of my, putting my headlamp lamp on. It was still a little dark, not super dark, but dark enough that I was like, you know what? This is a trail that I probably haven't ran on ever. So, or, similar light terrain that I haven't ran on ever. So let me put on my headlamp and go out there. Had the headlamp on, getting ready to go. And before I knew it, we were off. And the first little bit of this race started on pavement. Like I'd stated, this was at Vogel State Park. So we started a little bit on the road and then we went straight into a single track. And before you knew it, we were up, down, flat, up, down. It was super verty, super technical, but I was having so much fun in this race and I was feeling so, so, so good. At the start of this race, I started running with a few people, one of them being this kid named Zach. Super cool guy. We chatted for quite a bit and then we split apart. And then I also started running with another runner named Rachel. She was super insightful, super great to chat with. We chatted for quite some time. She gave me the scoops on the trail. She warned me a couple times about this race being pretty gnarly. And it was so funny because everyone was like, "Oh, you're from Florida. How the heck do you train for a race like this?" So it was super cool to chat with them and kind of share and then get to know a whole bunch of runners. I was super thankful to have these conversations and just chat with some people, but I started to feel really good. So this was probably roughly 3 miles into the race. I was feeling so good. I was, being conservative, not going out too hot, trying to just like tame the excitement. And at this point, I was like, you know what? I'm feeling good. I was running with Rachel at the time and I was like, I think I'm actually going to go ahead, just kind of enjoy what's going on and take in each step as best as I can. So I went ahead, and at this point, I vaguely remember it was going like down a downhill. So before all of this, it was a bit of climbing, honestly, super runnable terrain, and I was super excited. I was a little worried about how technical this course was going to be, and it was, but not to the point that I couldn't run any of the part that I actually was on at this time. I do know the back half of this race is very hard, and that is the whole point of it. But the section that I was on, I was like, this is super runnable. I am loving this. Was feeling super, super good. So, as I'd mentioned, I parted ways with a few people I was running with, was blasting down a downhill, feeling so good. I felt super comfortable on the terrain. I wasn't scared in the actual technicality of this terrain. And the legs were feeling great. I was feeling great. I was so pumped. I want to say I was roughly 45 minutes into this race, maybe a little less, maybe a little more. I'm not exactly sure, but I do know it was past the rough estimate of a 3 mile mark because there was supposed to be a water stop, quote unquote, at the 3 mile mark. There was not, but we kept going. And, I just saw, hey, my watch said 3 miles and I didn't see any water, but it was a road crossing. So we passed the road. And again, I was going downhill, feeling super good at this one section. And before you know it, I flattened out. I remember flattening out and just cruising, literally thinking to myself, I feel so good right now, hitting something, rolling my ankle, and instant pain and suffering. So when this happens, because this does happen to me quite a bit, usually I can like kind of run it off. So when the roll happened, I heard it pop, not like super anything crazy where I was like, oh my God, I broke a bone, but I was a little concerned because it was a lot more painful and I haven't heard my ankle pop or like make a noise like that in a really, really, really long time. So it happened and I was like, no. I literally remember being alone and just being like, no, 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 no. Like this is the last thing I want to happen. I was feeling so good, and I was just like, you know what, Liz, you roll your ankle all the time. It's okay. Let's just run this out. So I started to try to run. I'm not gonna lie, it was super painful, but I was like, you can push through. You got this. So I was, limp walking, running, and just trying to like shake out the pain. It sounds super crazy, but with if someone does roll their ankle quite a bit, maybe they can understand what I'm talking about. And it's just like when it rolls, it's like a weird pain. And sometimes like if you just keep going, keep trying to keep it mobile, like it goes back to normal, and it's a little sore, but it's not anything detrimental. Sadly, the pain was super super intense. I was trying to push through it. I remember like kind of climbing a little bit. It wasn't super painful in the climbs, but as soon as I started to descend again, I could feel so much pain in my heel, which was worrisome for myself because usually the pain is like up higher in the ankle, not so much like lower in the bottom of my foot. But the ankle was on fire, the Achilles was on fire, and the bottom of my foot was on fire. So I did my best, and before you know it, I could hear someone coming behind me. I pulled off to the side and was trying to eat a gel. Funny enough, I was like, eat food, like you need to, take your mind off of all this pain you're feeling. And it was Rachel coming back down, and she's like, no, 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 it's me. Go ahead, go ahead. And I was like, no, actually, I actually rolled my ankle. I need a second. So she passes. I think a few other people pass, and I'm trying to get my shit together, trying not to talk about it because, like, as you know, we all say, like, the more you speak it out to existence, the worse it is. And at this moment, maybe 3.5, 4 miles in, I was in the pain cave. My ankle was killing me. I kept trying to tell myself, like, it's just hurting and you're making this pain feel 10 times worse than it actually is. I kept trying to like talk myself out of it. I was like run walking at this point and just trying my best to really decide like what was going on and if this really was as bad as it felt like it was, because at the moment I was like, oh my God, I completely shattered my ankle, which obviously I did not. But emotions are high, worrisome is there, and I was struggling to figure out like what was truly real in this instant because as our brain does some crazy things to us, when I felt and did all this, rolling of the ankle, I was just like, was it really that bad? So I did start to walk, and I wrote a message to my mom saying, hey, I think I rolled my ankle pretty badly. I'm trying to figure out what to do. I'll let you know once I, can assess the real pain of this. So as I'm moving along, the slower I go, the tighter I could feel my ankle going. So I was like, you know what? I need to continue running. So I started running again. I believe I caught back up with Rachel, and I think there was a few other people. And honestly, at some point, like my ankle started to feel pretty good. We were back to like power hiking the section. So I was like, I can manage this. I feel pretty good. We were probably doing like a 15:30 to maybe 16:30 minute per mile pace going up some vert. And I was like, I can handle this. Like, I think I can do this. I think I can do this. Like, kept telling myself, like, you're not in that much pain. Like, the ankle is just coming back. Like, give it some time. And then we started going down another downhill, and the pain just got unreal again. I could feel it like shooting through the heel of my foot, which really did have me worried. And I parted ways with everyone that was running. I just said I need to kind of catch myself. So when that happened, I did really start to panic. I was like, oh no, like this doesn't feel good. Nothing feels right. This isn't a typical type of rolling of my ankle. I probably did some more damage than what I really know I did. I maybe 5-ish miles in at the time. I'm not entirely sure. I feel like it's all a big blur after I rolled my ankle. I reached out to my partner and told her I rolled my ankle and I think I'm actually going to have to drop from this race. And as soon as I said that, like the whole being of my body left me. And then, I always joke with my partner. So she was like, haha, you're funny. I'm like, no, 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 I'm actually being serious. I think I messed up my ankle. So she told me, no, 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 you're okay. Like, let's talk about what happened. And I explained what happened. And at this moment, I was just like, shit. Like, I think I just need to call Joe and tell Joe what happened. And like, he will let me know what to do, because right now I have the thought process of gritting it out and just sucking it up. And Kristen was kind of online with that. Like, yeah, you can just keep going. It's okay. Like, you roll your ankle all the time, which is sadly the truth. I roll my ankle all the time. I literally rolled my ankle the day or two before Javelina, and it worked itself out. Mind you, it didn't feel anything in comparison to what I was feeling right now. And that's what really kind of worried me. So I got off the call with Kristen. I called Joe, and Joe was like, what the heck? Super, super concerned. And he told me, this is not your A race. You need to remember what your A race is. We chatted for quite a bit. And then sadly, service was just so horrible out there. I lost connection with him. And I'm just like in my thoughts on what to do. I don't know what to do. I did think to myself, like, let me just get to this next aid station. Let me look at the ankle, see what's going on, and I can assess everything from there. So I ended up power hiking the rest of the area. I got in contact with quite a few people. Everyone kept asking if I was okay. I don't know if it was the slow, power hiking at this point because we were a couple miles in, or if they could see the pain in my face. Who actually knows? But by the time I got to the first aid station, it was roughly 8 miles in. Everyone there was super, super nice, super, super beneficial, super great. And the one gentleman took my number and said, "What's wrong?" And I was like, I rolled my ankle pretty bad, and I don't know if I'm gonna continue to go. I don't know if it's a smart move to make. So I, informed him I wanted to sit down and kind of take a look at it to make sure like nothing was, it wasn't super swollen or there was no bruising. And by the time I took my shoe off and everything, it was a little swollen. But honestly, like I said, I've done this so many times where I've rolled my ankle. The swelling, little bit of swelling is kind of normal. So I was like, you know what? It's nothing super crazy. Even the gentleman's like, look, I'm not gonna lie, like it doesn't look too bad. It's a little swollen here, but um, if you can manage to walk 4 more miles, I would recommend for you to go 4 more miles to the next aid station, which is 12 miles out, just to get picked up if you do decide to drop. Because where I was at that 8 mile aid station, it was super hard for anyone to get there. They should have or probably needed to have 4-wheel drive, which my mom has a car, so that was out of the question. And they could not take me back because they had to man the aid station. So I told him no matter what, I will go 4 miles. I just, needed to regroup, wanted to kind of assess things and figure out what to do from then. I started to go back down the trail, obviously put my shoe back on, got everything situated. Luckily, I had the poles. I'm not going to lie. I relied on the poles so much during this next portion because I put so much weight on the poles instead of my ankle. And I was super thankful for the guy at the aid station because he talked me through what the terrain was going to be look like. So that way, when I got out there, he's like, you'll know what to expect. Go through this section. It'll be super kind of flat. You will experience quite a bit of rocks. Take it easy on the rocks. You'll go up a little bit of climb and then you'll have a huge descent. And when he said that, I was like instantly like, oh crap. I explained to him that like this descent was really hurting my foot. So he's like, it is going to be kind of long. Take your time, be safe. Best of luck. So I left the aid station and had to muster up 4 miles of some super slow, horrible, painful miles. And during this, I'm honestly kind of glad that I went through these 4 miles because during this section was kind of like the make or break of like, am I going to drop or can I push through this for the next 40-ish miles? So within the first like mile, I knew I was going to have to drop after, leaving the 8 miles in of the actual aid stop because the pain got so bad. And at this point, I was like, shit, I kind of wish I just would have waited at that last aid station because this is miserable. But I just kept telling myself, like, the guy told me I had to keep going. Like, it's the best case scenario. I will get picked up in 4 miles and then, can rest and figure out all this stuff with my ankles. So it was a long 4 miles. I really had to sit with myself. So many people passed me. So many people offered help. And I am so, so, so thankful. And I will be 100% honest, within this 4 miles, the pain got so bad that I actually took medicine because I was just so uncomfortable. I knew I was going to drop. It's not like I was going to take medicine and continue to push through, but it was just soul sucking. And then to get to the aid station at mile 12 and to have to sit there and watch so many people come through, and literally I probably looked fine, and to tell them like I rolled my ankle and I'm gonna have to drop. And it was just so it sounds so crazy, but to say humiliating, but it was, and it shouldn't be. But I felt so tiny, and all of these people came through super, super nice, super appreciative, and so kind. But yet all I could think of is like, I cannot believe I'm sitting here about to walk out of this race because of my freaking ankle. And, I thought so much about this and I really tried to like tell myself like it's okay. And it's so funny. Like I saw Joseph Fuller and Mike Alberts and Katie come to this aid station, and like Katie was so nice. She's like, I'm so sorry. Like, I am going to say I'm sorry so many times because like I know how hard you trained for this race, and you're literally like so ready and you have to drop. I'm so sorry. And Joe talks so much to me, like telling me, listen, like shit like this happens, and you know, you're making the right call. And I was like, yeah, at the end of the day, like Barkley is my A race, and I know that's more important. And then Mike was like, oh my gosh, like 100% you're making the right call. So deep down, I knew I was doing the right thing, but like for some reason that ego was in place, and I was just like, oh, this is so embarrassing. Like I've literally talked so much shit, and you know, like more or less like talk shit about myself, like, oh, I'm the vert queen of Florida. I'm gonna go tackle this race. And you know, it's so hard to actually sit back and be like, oh, I had to drop from this race. Again, at the end of the day, I made the right call and I'm at peace with this decision, but it fucking sucks. And it took so much for me to call my mom, to have her come get me, to walk to her car, to get in the car, to go to the Airbnb, to then sit there thinking, do I really want to sit here in Georgia for another night and then go home with nothing in hand? So, me being the person I am and my mom knowing me, she was already packed and ready to go. And as soon as I got out of the shower, I was like, I want to go home. So we did. But let's kind of go over this whole process. So DNFs suck. And if you don't know, a DNF did not finish. I did not finish the race. I dropped officially at mile 12. And I just felt and still feel so angry. But as I mentioned, at the end of the day, I am more concerned with other races. And if I would have continued pushing through this, you know, rolling of the ankle, the sprained ankle, the issue, honestly, I probably would have been out for the count a lot longer than what I am. As soon as I got home, took off my shoe, looked at the foot, it was a little more swollen, and my mom kept saying, look, I could see some bruising. I'm like, nah, I don't think that's bruising. That's just my ankle. Like it's just, you know, it's always looking a little funny. So take a shower, you know, drive home. Did drive home with my ankle up on the front of the car as much as possible. But I get home later that night and I am finally telling myself, like, look, there is bruising. There's a ton of bruising and it's getting more swollen. So at the end of the day, I know I made the right call. And I made a post and, you know, kind of shared some pictures of the ankle, and it has gotten bigger and the bruising has gotten more prominent and it's spreading all throughout my foot. So I get to enjoy this fun little injury, but it still sucks. And I'm still sitting here like, I've literally trained my ass off for 1 full year. I mean, we're always training, don't get me wrong, but I haven't ran a race in such a long time. And then to get out there and experience this injury literally 3.5, 4 miles into the race sucks ass. And it really played a lot on me and like my feelings, honestly, like my ego, my freaking desire just to be out there in the mountains and go out there and tackle this race. And it's not like saying my ego was crushed because, you know, I had something to prove, but more or less just like I was so excited to go out there and tackle this Verdi race and just to give it my all and go after this dang thing, and to have something like out of my control happen for someone that is a very control freak, it's hard. So it's just something hard to swallow. And at the end of the day, I am so thankful it happened, in the sense of like, this is my first DNF and it's because of an injury. And I am just happy it happened. I've gotten it over with, all of that good stuff. But I am super bummed and now can't run. And I want to run because like I need to think these things through. But I did the right thing, and I know I did the right thing, and that's what really matters. I'm at peace, still probably processing all of the bull crap, but there's some things I learned, and I wrote a blog about this, and I'm going to share the blog, and I'm going to put this podcast in the blog. So if you read the blog and came to the podcast, awesome. Thank you so much. If you're listening to this podcast, go read the blog. Honestly, it's probably very similar, but share it, like it, love it, you know, just help me out, you know, help share the love and all that good stuff. But some of the lessons I learned during this is that like listening to your body is so important. I contemplated, you know, dropping from the race so much because genuinely my body felt so good. I felt amazing. The body was ready to go to tackle all of the running, but the ankle was not. The ankle was hurting and she was screaming, she was angry, And I'm glad I listened and didn't just kind of brush this off, because as I mentioned, like, I roll my ankle so much that when it happened, I was just like, honestly, Liz, like, this will kind of fix itself. Just keep going. You'll be okay. Then the pain got a little worse and it stayed consistently and it didn't go away. So I was like, you know what? Let me reassess. Obviously, something is not right. So I am super thankful that I took the time to listen to my body and took a step back and dropped from the race. It's hard to say, but the pain was so significant that I knew it was doing more damage than anything, that, continuing to run on this ankle would have just been not smart. So I'm super glad I listened to my body. And another thing that I think is super, super important during all of this is just realizing that, like, DNF happens. I can't predict things to happen like this. Like, no one can predict what's going to happen in a race. You can't imagine slipping and or twisting your ankle or injuring yourself. You can literally train your ass off, and the craziest things can happen 3 miles, 4 miles into a race, which is exactly what happened here. But it doesn't make me any less a runner or any more of a runner. It truly just happens. And it doesn't define you. I know I hear that all the time, like, a DNF doesn't define you, but it's truly taking this DNF and realizing, like, it was bound to happen one of these days and I'm sure it'll happen again. But I just need to come back stronger than ever and redeem myself. And you bet I will be back next year for H9. It's not like unfinished business, and that, like, this course hurt me so much I need to go out there and show it I can actually run this race. It's literally, I didn't get the chance to run this race and I want to go out there and actually run a mountainous race. So I will go after the Barkley Fall Classic, obviously, in a month. And then next year, I am going to be back for H9 and I want to go out and see what I can do for this race. But, obviously, I lived and I learned and got to experience a little bit of this race, but definitely want to go back. Another lesson, obviously, long-term running is way more important than, gritting something out and making an injury worse than what it actually is. So, we always hear, like, the David Goggins, like, you could push through, you're stronger than that. And, like, don't get me wrong, there was a few times during this incident when I was like, you're just being a little bitch, like, you're okay. But at the end of the day, I had this little feeling and this, like, little voice in the back of my head saying, I think you're doing worse than what you actually should be doing. And I listened. I, didn't want to do more damage. I didn't want to be out longer than what I needed to be. So I dropped. It is not easy. It was not easy. But at the end of the day, you have to listen to your body and realize, or, maybe think, do you want that shiny buckle or shiny medal at the end of said race? Or do you want to run for months and months and years and years and months and, all that good stuff? I want to always run. At the end of the day, I love running. I want to run as much and as long as possible. Like, if I could run till I was 80 years old, I 100% would. And I didn't want to jeopardize and make this ankle worse. Obviously, as I mentioned, rolling my ankle is something I do quite a bit, but this roll of the ankle was a bit worse than normal. So sometimes it's the hard thing to do, but taking a step back and really assessing, like, is this injury worth it, or is pushing through this injury worth it? And if it isn't, making that call and making that hard decision, which is exactly what I did. And I have no regrets, not even a couple letters. But it was hard. At the end of the day, the right call was made. And I think, like, the biggest thing out of all of this is, well, two things really. The one I'll kind of get to and explain a little bit more on, but, like, the biggest thing for me to realize is, like, crazy shit like this happens. No one would have expected for me to roll an ankle a few miles in to the point that I couldn't finish this race. I would have never in a million years guessed that this would have happened. I was expecting to be in so much pain, in the sense of, like, my quads and my hamstrings and my calves killing me because of how much vert I had to endure, rather than my ankles screaming at the few steps of downhill running because I had twisted my ankle and, was injured. So things like this happened. There was no true way for me to be able to train and overcome this. It's an injury. I got injured. At the end of the day, it's so funny. Like, I was thinking about training and, like, was there really anything I could have done to try to prevent this? And maybe getting out there and running on more like specific terrain would have been more beneficial. But at the end of the day, like slipping and twisting your foot on a rock happens. And there's no way to really go out there and practice and or like become better at that. Don't get me wrong, I do tons of ankle mobility and ankle strengthening, but your girl has definitely fallen off that like track of being very consistent at doing that. But I truly have to say, I don't think if I was still doing it as consistently as I usually am, that it would have done anything for this. I truly think this ankle sprain or whatever it is just to the point that I could have had the most flexible and or best ankles around, and this still would have kind of knocked me out. So it is what it is. You know, things happen that you don't plan for, and the best thing to do is just kind of deal with what you can and keep going. Which brings me to my next and final, like, biggest lesson was feeling your feelings. I don't do well with feeling my feelings. I, do my best, but I'm human. A lot of times things happen to me and I try to like brush it off. I go run it out and just try to deal with it through a run, but I literally cannot. And I have no energy to like do anything right now because I'm like mentally and physically just so bleh because I hurt myself that I've had no outlet on like how to experience all these feelings. So driving home with my mom, chatting with my mom, and then coming home and talking to my partner about it, it kind of is what it is. I couldn't have done anything, and I'm a little bit fortunate it happened at this race compared to a race like out west or some race that was 100 or 200 miles. Like it was a 50 miler. I think what stings me the most though is just my first mountainous race, and I fucking rolled my ankle to the point that it hurt so bad that I couldn't run on it. And it's crazy because like I can walk with a little bit of a limp pretty well and I'm fine. But I, like put any sort of pressure going a different way rather than like forward on my ankle and it's screaming. It is unhappy. If I step a certain way on my heel, it's not happy. So it is just like realizing, like you're going to feel the things that you're going to feel, not being just from the pain, but like the fact that I had to DNF, the fact that I had to stop running and just drop from a race. It's never easy, but I'm sitting with the feelings. I'm going through all the experiences. I'm talking it through on a freaking podcast that at one point during my walk of shame, I guess you could call it, of going to the car and getting in the car with my mom, realizing I'm going to have to make a freaking podcast about this race recap, which is a huge DNF. But at the end of the day, like, I am okay with it. It is what it is. And I am definitely going back to H9, but I think it is just how life works. And we're all going to experience some ups and downs. And this will not be the setback that takes me away from running or anything of that. I do not feel like less of a person because of this DNF. I truly am just so freaking angry that I didn't have the chance to go out and like run this race. I would have much rather been like 30 miles in. I'm not gonna lie, I probably would have continued to run on it for a couple, maybe 20 miles to finish the race. I don't know. Honestly, this was very, very painful, but it's just so crazy to me that this was roughly 3 miles into this race and I rolled my ankle. So it's more or less like just so much unfinished business. I, trained my little heart out and I feel like I didn't have the chance to go show myself where I was fitness wise because I'm truly so curious because I've never ran a mountainous race. I've been up in the mountains. I've actually mountain biked a little bit in the mountains in Georgia one time with my brother, which was kind of hilarious. But I've never like gone out and ran. I've hiked a ton. I did a little bit of mountainous running with a few friends, but like never in a race. I've never literally raced a mountainous race. So for me, it was just like, I want to go out there and see what the heck I can do. And I will tell you straight out the bat, there was absolutely no way I thought I was going to win this race after probably 5 or 10 minutes into this race because the front pack, the people that won this race, went out so hot and finished in immaculate time. But there was a thought in my mind like, could I place? Could I actually go out there and do pretty really well? And who knows? Maybe I'll find out next year, but I definitely know that had no chance to really give this race anything other than a couple miles of an effort, which was pretty bummed. And I think what really has me like shooken and bothered, but there's always another year, and I'm definitely going back. I got to chat so much with so many cool people when I was out there, and so many people were like, dude, this race is freaking horrible, but I just keep coming back. And I, didn't even get a taste of how horrible this race was, and I genuinely cannot wait to go back just to kind of give it a go. And I really can't wait to like go out there and really race a few mountainous races. I obviously this race does it counts, but it doesn't count for me like that. So I have the Barkley Fall Classic and then already planning what I'm going to do next year. And I'm thinking maybe Cruel Jewel, maybe go out there and torture myself with that. I've heard from a few people that were out on H9 because if people don't know, some of H9 is actually on the Cruel Jewel course. And Cruel Jewel used to start where H9 starts at, but now it doesn't for some reason. I'm not too sure. But so many people were like, listen, if you're going to do Cruel Jewel, go do the 100 mile, don't do the 50. Because if you do the 50, there's no way you're going to come back for the 100 because it's horrible. But it's these types of things I think that I know for myself as a runner, I want to go and experience. I want to go experience that horrible, crazy terrain and, put myself through the ringer to get through on the other side. And I was so excited to do that with this 50 because I knew how hard this race was going to be. And I got robbed. I got robbed on the chance to do that. But that's just life. Sometimes life throws you curveballs and sometimes life happens, in a great, crazy way and you win races or you get records and sometimes you twist an ankle and are down and out for the count. So it is what it is. I am super bummed and obviously still probably processing this and I probably will be for quite some time, but it's not over. My race career is still intact. I am just going to have to sit a few days out and see how this ankle does. I did make a post. So if you haven't seen the post, I posted how the ankle has been for the past 2 days about. So I posted a picture where you can see a little bit of a swollen ankle, a little bit of bruising. I personally can barely see the bruising, but my mom's like, listen, that's a bruise right there. Look at the center. It's a bruise. And then if you see, that was literally a few hours after the race. And then when I got home from the race here in Florida, probably midnight Saturday night, I took a picture. I took a picture Sunday morning and Sunday evening. And if you can't or haven't seen it, there's like a little bit of bruising. It gets a little bigger, gets even bigger, and it's like all over the bottom ankle area and definitely some swelling and definitely some bruising. So I know I made the right call and it is now time to just rest and recover. And you bet that I'm going to come back ready to go and just go after the Barkley Fall Classic. Mind you, when I say go after the Barkley Fall Classic, I still have so much to learn about running in the mountains, and I'm sure I will experience so much in the race, but I'm just so excited to go out and see what I can do. I really, really wanted to do that in H9 to like fully experience what running in the mountains would be like, and then go kick some ass in Barkley Fall Classic. I kind of feel like I may be a little more timid going into Barkley because I didn't get to experience H9 as like I wanted to. I didn't get to experience the mountainous, verdy technicality of a course other than a few miles. So I'm going to go into Barkley ready for redemption, but also to learn so much and just give that race all I can. And then, see what I can do next year in some mountainous races. So the mountains are still calling. I am ready to go tackle the mountains as much as possible, but kind of reassessing things, having to take some time off and rest and recover the ankle. Luckily, the ankle is feeling okay. It's still super painful. I can walk with a little bit of a limp at times, but I'm doing my best to keep the ankle moving. So I know from previous times of any time that I've ever sprained my ankle, the more I keep my ankle stiff, the harder it is for me to come back on my ankle. Mind you, when I say I'm doing some movements, I'm not doing anything that is painful. Everything is, kept super smart. I've been resting, elevating, icing, heating, all of the things to keep the ankle as happy as possible. I have been walking around a little, probably a little too much, but that's just me and my crazy tendencies where I cannot sit still very long. But I'm doing all the things I can to come back, and I'm assessing how I'm going to start approaching training again. I've been slacking a lot with ankle stuff, and obviously I need to keep that front in mind. I'm also planning to try to figure out how to dial in strength training a little better. I've been saying I'm going to for so long. I've been slacking so much, and I was literally just talking to an athlete of mine about like how much I've been slacking on strength training and how I need to reassess. And I kept telling myself, I'll go out there and crush H9 and I'll come back ready to go and ready to tackle more strength. And didn't happen the way I thought it would, but I am very determined to get back into the weights and to start strength training a little more. I truly do miss lifting and lifting how I used to lift. So I'm going to incorporate some, upper body strength that I used to do all the time, a little more, maybe less frequently, or I should say not as long, but trying to get in a few lifts, even if it's for 20 minutes, and then really dialing in, trying to strengthen my ankles, get some more flexibility in my ankles, and just, trying to rest and recover them as much as possible, but also trying to grow and strengthen them at the same time. I know it kind of sounds funny, but if you know, you know. So it's going to be an interesting few weeks. I will do my best to keep everyone in the loop and up to date. You can follow me along on social media. I'm sure I'll be making posts, and I will do my best to share this journey coming back into running. It will probably be slow. I will definitely take things a little easy the next few weeks and just try to see and feel how everything comes through. I've been asked a lot, like, do you think it's broken? And, what are you going to do? And I do not think it's broken. I think I genuinely just really badly sprained my ankle. So I'm taking it easy, resting, recovering, and patiently waiting to get back out and start running again because I'm already going crazy and it is only Monday. So thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I am truly so thankful for all the love and support and everyone that reached out. Again, I am going to respond eventually. I am just in the feels and trying to deal with all of these feelings, but please know that I am okay and I'll be out running before you know it and doing all the crazy things on the Florida mountain and on the treadmill and back to being the Florida vert queen out there. So thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you haven't, please take the time to review the podcast, give it 5 stars because, I'm amazing and you're amazing and this podcast needs to grow and I can only do that with the help of you. So don't forget to share the podcast with all of your friends, like, review, all the things, leave a comment, and let me know your DNF story if you want. If you want to be on the podcast, let me know. Shoot me a message. I would love to share your story to help encourage and inspire as many people as possible, just as this crazy, shitty DNF story, as I'm hoping, is encouraging and inspiring you all, because at the end of the day, you are not alone. Shit like this happens, but it's not what has happened to you that defines you. It's what you do with what has happened that defines you. So go out there and give it all you got, my friends. Thank you so much for listening to this episode.